In this video I'm going to create a ghost shooter which is based on the old game called Asteroids. I've just run construct 2 and I'm going to select a new product and a new empty product. Okay, you can see there we've got this dotted line which shows how much of the screen we can actually see, and if I just press the middle button on my mouse and drag that along, we can see there we've got this part of the screen will be shown, but this is the full size of it. We can see there from the layout size is 1708 by 960, that's this outside. This inside is the project properties. We click on that, it's 854 by 480. That's fine for now. I'm just going to leave them as they stand. Okay, now first thing we need to do is we need to bring some images in to use for background, to use for the player, to use for the characters that are going to be actually in there. So if you go on the VLE, there's a zip file that's called Shooter, and if you download that, you should get some images as here. So that's the shooter file, and inside there are these images. So we start off, we can see that we've got a background image. What I'm going to do is I'm going to insert a new object, and the object I want to insert is a tiled background. Insert that, just click anywhere on there, and you can see we start off with a blank image. We open the background image, that's loaded that into there, and just close that, and what that does is it puts this tiled image which we can then stretch. You can see it's not actually stretching the image, it's just stretching the area that the image is working on. If I click play just to preview that, you'll see there we've got a standard background image. Okay, let's go back to the program, and we need to go into layers, and layer 0, we can see there. What we're going to do is we're going to rename that. I've just clicked on it a couple of times. I'll call it background, and I'm going to add another layer, and this one I'll just rename that. We'll call it main, and I'm going to lock the background layer, so I'm not going to by accident select this, and you can see there the background is 0 and the main is 1, and these are reference numbers we can use. So let's take a character, insert a new object. This time we're going to use a sprite. Set a sprite, just click anywhere on there, and let's just open the image, and it's going to be the player to start off with, and we've got the player in there. Just close that, and you can see we've got this character on there. Now the player itself needs to stay within the boundaries of this, and he also needs to be able to move around using up, down, left, right, and all the diagonals. So what we're going to do is, with the player selected, go over to behaviors, add edit behaviors, and we're going to add a behavior, and you can see there we've got bound to layout, stop an object leaving the layout. We're going to add that one, and also add movement 8 direction, move an object up, down, left to right, and on the diagonals. Okay, now again let's test this, and we can see if I move the player using the arrow keys, we can see, so we've got the beginnings of a game. Right, let's go back on here, and the problem with the game at the minute is we've only got the player. We need to add other characters. Unfortunately, the player is called Sprite, and every sprite we bring in is going to be called sprite 1, sprite 2. So we're going to rename that to player so that we know what we're talking about. Insert another object, another sprite, and let's have its nemesis in there. Open up the monster, and you can see there's a nice monster. And the monster, well, is he going to be constrained to the boundaries? No. But what we're going to need to do is put some kind of movement behavior on there. So, and actually what he's going to do is move like a bullet, move an object ahead at its current angle, typically used for bullets and projectiles. What's going to happen there, let's just pop this to the side and then just press play, and what we'll see is the object moves. Now, that's not ideal, and what we need to do is that when he goes off screen, he comes back on. Ideally, what would we like him to do? Well, we'd like him to be aiming himself for the actual player. So what we're going to do is we're going to go into this event sheet, and the event sheet is where all the coding goes. So I'm going to click add event, and the event is going to be that. Let's just cancel that, and we'll change the name of this sprite to monster. So let's add the event, and the event is a monster, and is outside layout. Right, so what happens when the monster goes outside the layout? Well, the action we're going to do is we're going to take the monster and we're going to set the angle of the monster. We're not going to do that. We're going to set the monster, and we're going to set the angle towards a position, and the position that we need to go towards is the player X and player Y. You can see there X, and you can just start typing in on this player dot Y. So the X is player.x, Y is player.y. So click done on there. So what we said is when the monster is outside the layout, then set the angle towards the player. And what does this do? What it does is that'll fly away, and straight away it should start to think about coming back towards the player. And again, that's a bit quick as it stands at the minute, so we need to slow that down. And what we're going to do is go back onto the layout, click on the monster, and its speed, we're going to knock it down from 400 to 80. So that should go a bit slower. We see there, that's okay to start off with. We'll leave it at that. Now, so we've just got the one monster as it stands at the minute. If we want more monsters, we just press Control and click and drag. So in there, let's just preview it again, and you can see that's fine. Now the trouble is with that, they're going to disappear off and then both start to come back in. Ideally, what we'd do is we'd have these at different angles, going off at different angles, so they're not all just going in the same direction. I should be coming back anytime soon. Another thing as well is that, there we go, see, just sidestep and then they just off they go. Right, what would it'd be nice is if we are moving along, and what we should do is the background should scroll along with this as well. So I'm going to go back onto the app again, and I'm going to say that the player, another behavior of the player is that it scrolls to. So always center the view on this object of the player, or at the midpoint of multiple objects. See what this does. What this does is, you see, it scrolls everything along with this, so we can have this bigger layout, and it'll go and show you all of it. When it gets to the edge, it'll just carry on going to the edge. We see there the background stops, it just goes to the edge, but it's got set bounds, so it can't go any further than that point. And as we can see there that these monsters are heading our way. Okay, next step. The player needs to be able to destroy the monsters, and what we've got is a new object, sprite, and open, and we've got the bullet. You can see there a small object there, and what we want to do is that when we press the mouse button, it fires. Now the thing is, where's it going to be firing at? So as it stands at the minute, it's up, down, left and right. We want the player to be able to point to wherever the mouse is going to click, and then we may have to click, and that will actually fire the bullet. So first and foremost, we need to give this game mouse support. So I want to insert a new object, and the object I want to insert is input mouse. Now you don't see anything down here, but what you'll see is that if I go into the event sheet, and what we're going to do is we want it to all the time be facing the mouse, and all the time is actually something that we call a system event. So the system event is every tick. So this does run the actions once every tick, for instance. Always, all the time. So every tick, we're going to position the angle of the player towards the mouse. So it's the player set angle toward position, and obviously this one's going to be mouse dot x and mouse dot y. If you don't see mouse in there, it's because you've not added it as an extra object. So that, now if we just try this, okay, you can see you're actually always facing the mouse, and then we need to be able to click and this bullet to be able to fire out. Okay, so we need to add the event that when the mouse has been clicked, so we're using the left button and it's just been clicked. Add an action, and actually it needs to be based on the player itself, so it's referencing from the player. So the player needs to spawn another object, and the object is going to be the sprite, which is the bullet. I need to change the name of that. And what layer is it going to spawn on? Well, we actually need it to spawn onto layer 1. And image point we'll come to in a minute. This is the point at which it spawns from. We've only got one point at this minute, which is called image point 0, and we'll see where this comes from. Let's just rename this, and I'll call it bullet. And you can see that it's actually changed, spawn bullet on layer 1. Now we've not said what the bullet actually does. It's got no behaviours, so we're going to add a behaviour, and obviously this one is going to have the bullet movement based on its angle. What else as well? When you fire a bullet, it's going to disappear and hit something, or just carry on going forever. If you allow it to carry on going forever, what what'll happen is eventually you'll have lots of bullets on the screen, although they'll have gone off the screen, and what they'll do is they'll just use memory up. So as soon as they go off the screen, we need to get rid of them. So what we're going to do is destroy outside layout. Okay, so it fires like a bullet, and then we destroy outside layout, and these are just behaviors. So this particular one, I'm just going to move it out of the way, and we said we spawn a bullet when we click. So let's test it. Yeah, so you can see it does fire, but it's actually firing from inside the player's face. So how do we change that? Well, we're going to layout and go into the player and double click on the player, and what we need to do is go into the point of origin. You see there we've got 0, and that's actually this one at the moment, so we add another one, image point 1, and that is going to go on the end here. So I've just clicked there and it's just appeared on the end. I'm going to close that and go into the event sheet, and instead of image point 0, we're going to get it to go from image point 1. And you'll see the difference that we get here is it's coming from the end of the gun. Right, so far so good, but it's not killing these monsters. Now, to kill a monster, we need to check for a collision between the bullet and the monster. So we had an event, bullet on collision with another object. What object? A monster. So bullet on collision with a monster, what actually happens? Well, the monster needs to be destroyed. Okay, again, test it. Can you see? Fantastic. But the bullets are just carrying on. So what we need to do is also destroy the monster, and also the bullet needs to be also destroyed. Now, you may have noticed that we've got another object, which is a sprite. Let's go into here, set new object sprite, anywhere on there, and open the explode. Okay, so we've got that explode. Now this explosion, you notice it's got a black background and it's just some kind of just basic explosion. What we're going to do is when the bullet hits the monster, this appears and then disappears while it's killing everything off. So let's not call it sprite 2, let's call it explosion. And to say that on the bullet collides with a monster, we're going to add an action, and the bullet is going to spawn the explosion. So bullet spawn another object, explosion on layer 1 again, and at the image point 0 on the bullet. So done. Now, big problem with this, it just leaves a block there, which we don't want to really do. So what do we need to do? It needs to do that, but the explosion itself needs to have a behavior which says that it fades, useful for making objects gradually disappear. So we add that, and we've got some settings in here, but I'm going to leave them. So it takes a second to fade out, and it destroys it itself after it's faded out. So very, very handy, that one. But the only problem is that, again, we got this black border. So what we can do is actually under effects, blend mode, normal. It's a bit like Photoshop. We can say additive, and what that does is it adds it to the background and deletes the black, treats it as transparency. So just move this out of the way and let's give it a go. Try it again, play, and boom, boom, fantastic. So we've killed our monsters, that's it, game over, there's no more monsters. But that's no good, we need to be able to add more monsters. Well, I can drag more on, or I can actually say that they just keep appearing. So how can we do that? So add an event, system, and every X amounts of seconds we need to do. So look, every X seconds, and let's say that every 3 seconds we're going to add an action and we're going to spawn a monster. So a monster, oops, system, spawn, no, we're not going to do, we're going to monster, what we're going to do, we're going to monster, we're going to spawn an object. The object is going to be a monster, and it's going to be on no, we're not going to do that. Create an object. Create a new instance of an object in the current layout. And the object you create is going to be the monster. It's going to be on layer 1 and its X position. Well, ideally it's going to be coming in a random place. So that's what we'll do. So we're going to start typing random. You see there, random. And the way that random works is it's random based on a value. So the X, as we can see, the layout size is 1708 wide, but the project properties, if you can remember, there, say anything from 0 to 800 and 400 for the Y. Create object which is random, so that's going to do that every 3 seconds. Let's give it a go. You can see there we created another one, and they sort of just appear. It would be nice if we could get them to fade in. So again, that would just be a behavior. So we're going to select both of these, and I'm going to add a behavior which is going to be a fade. Now the fade that we're going to use is it's active at the start and it's going to fade in over 1 second, and it's not going to fade out, and it's not going to destroy. So it comes on right from the beginning, takes a second to fade in, and then it doesn't destroy itself. So let's have a look, see what this looks like. You see, so a little bit more ghost-like. Now what we need to do, as well is that when these appear, they also come in at random, and they also go in random directions as well. And okay, to do that, we need to basically, as soon as these are spawned, that they actually go in random directions. So create object monster every 3 seconds on layer 1 at random places. So what we can do is add an event to say the system, and on start of layout we're going to add an action which is going to be the monster, and we're going to set the angle, and it says the object angle in degrees, and what we're going to do is say this is going to be random and anything between 0 and 360. Done. Start, and we'll see there that they'll come in so the first two at a bit of an angle. There you go, and now each time whenever one's spawned, they're coming in at a random place. But not at a random angle. So how are we going to do that? So every 3 seconds we create an object at the random place, and then we also the monster set angle random 360. Let's run that, and there they're all coming out at random, just faded in. Okay, now the next thing we need to do is to add some kind of scoring system. So going onto the screen again, and let's just hide the background so I can actually see what I'm working with here. I'm going to create another layer, and that layer I'm going to call HUD, heads up display, and on there I'm going to put some text, and that text is going to say score. Okay, well, let's name this text and let's call it score. And what we need to do is we need to have a variable that says that when we hit a monster we get 1 to the score, add 1 to the score. Okay, so the project properties, let's just click on the player. We need a global variable, so go into the event sheet and right click on there and say add a global variable, and the variable is going to be score. It's a number, either number or text, and the initial value is 0. Okay, so global number score equals 0, and we also then need to make sure that we keep updating this this score. So every take, which is something that happens all the time, we can actually add an action which says the score set text, and the text is going to be score : and score value. So we've got the text there, and we've got the variable afterwards. So done. So every tick we're going to set this score up. So if I run that, the problem we've got now is we can see that it's just about there, right, but it disappears, which is no good. Plus it's in black as well. So let me just close that down, and this we're going to change it to change that to white. Right, it's not adding one to it, because what we need to do is that we need to say that the monster's destroyed, but we need to add one to score as well. So add action, and it's a system, and it's going to be add to global and local variable score, and we're going to add one whenever you hit that. So let's test it again. You can see that the score's going up 2. Okay, it's addictive. So I'm just going to kill that off again, and what we need to do is to make sure that this heads up display on layer 2, make sure that that is on the HUD, and right. So what I've done is I made sure that, so we've got this game now where we've got these. How can we make it more difficult? Well, for a start, they come towards you, but they don't do anything. So we can think about it. What can we do there? We can say that the player on collision with another object, the monster, what does that do? It takes the player and destroys it. So again, test it. Oh, there we go, gone. Now that could be game over. So this is just a bit of an insight to start us off. There's lots and lots of different things we can add to there, like health bars, number of lives, etc. Start screens, end screens. But just as a starter, we've actually got a game there that actually does something, at least. It's a bit of an introduction to using construct. And it's just spawned directly over me and killed me. Okay, thanks for listening.